Hey everyone, it's Press McKissack, and I'm so excited that you're here for another episode of the Profit Share podcast. Unfortunately, this week we've got no Linda, and so, however, it's going to be a great episode, so hang tight with me. But let me share with you, Linda and Jim are in Paris, France, not Paris, Texas, Paris, France this week, enjoying a wonderful cruise through the beautiful French countryside. And for whatever reason, she didn't take me. So I don't know if you have Linda's number. You probably need to send her a text and say, I cannot believe you would go to France and not take Press. All right. So that's okay, though. I digress. We're excited for her. She's going to have a great time. And guess what? We're going to have a great time on today's episode because we're going to take this podcast in a little bit of a different direction than we maybe normally do. Obviously, you know, if you're a listener, that we talk on KW Profit Share and we talk about how to grow, whether it be your downline or your office in KW. We're talking a lot of strategy and success stories and amazing KW stories of people, right, whose lives have been changed at this company. With the recent news of just everything going on in the world today, I wanted to take a different turn and focus on a topic called Tough Times Make Tough Leaders.
Welcome to the Profit Share Mastery Podcast with your hosts, Linda and Press McKissack.
So I'm going to start off with an abridged quote from Mr. G. Michael Humph from his book, Those Who Remain. He has a book talking about tough times, and this is sort of my abridged version of his quote. He says, hard times create strong leaders. Strong leaders create good times, and good times create weak leaders, and weak leaders create hard times. I would argue that right now we're in a unique situation in the real estate market today of tough times, right? I don't think anyone would disagree that we're having tough times in the industry right now. And I want to talk specifically about how you take those tough times to make you a tough leader. So whether you lead a team, you know, whether you're an agent, whether you're a market center leader, or whether you just lead yourself, I don't care which of those three buckets you're in, you're a leader. You're a leader, again, to yourself or to others. And the bottom line is this, that tough times don't break leaders, they forge them. So today, what we're going to talk specifically about is how I believe there are 4 traits that strong leaders tap into in tough times. Trait number 1 is they get real. Trait number 2 is they gain clarity. Trait number 3 is they become resourceful. And trait number 4, they illuminate the path. So let's dive into trait number 1 today. Get real. I want to share a quick story. I remember I've now seen this happen 2 different times in KW's history, where I have heard from the inside at Keller Williams International, when Gary sees market trends start to trend in a negative direction, meaning, right, inventory is going down or things are sitting on the market longer, as soon as he catches wind that the tides are turning, that the wind is shifting in a different direction, Gary would walk into the finance department and he would immediately give a mandate to start cutting expenses. I'm talking not just a few expenses. I'm talking 20, 30+% of KWRI's expenses, because Gary Keller is a weathered leader. And he knew that when the wind shifts directions, you have to get real and you have to make change. And the truth is, whether we look at that example or whether we look at the reality of the industry we're in right now, we've had the commission lawsuits, we've had lower home sales, lowest in nearly 30 years. We've had affordability challenges with the interest rates going up, and we've had home sales being down and inventory being up. So with, all of those factors, right? Plenty of the agents in KW would argue that these are tough times. And here's the reality. All progress begins with truth. That is, in one of the lessons I have learned as a leader, when I'm dealing with people, if they can't get real with me to start, we can't move forward. Here's the truth. All progress really begins with truth. And by naming reality, you give yourself permission to stop pretending and start truly problem solving. And great leaders know this. And so you really have to focus on the actions that need to happen when you're in tough times. And again, you first have to acknowledge that you're in tough times. And here's what's interesting. I always love this when agents I've heard agents talk to Gary before about being in tough times. Gary will ask them, okay, so how many home sales are in your market, like in the last 12 months? And they'll say some big number, right? And Gary will ask them, is that how many homes you're selling? And they're like, no, obviously I'm not selling everything in the market. Then he will remind them, then what do you have to worry about? Just because we're in tough times and that might be the reality of the situation, it doesn't mean that you can't have your best year yet. And so part of getting real is being honest about where you are and not settling for that place, meaning you understand that just because it's tough times, most everyone starts to make excuses for it being tough times. And what do? They stay at home longer, they work less, they do the opposite of what they should do, which is double down. And so here's my takeaway on Get Real. Reality allows you to have empathy and leads to clarity, right? Which leads us into trait number 2, which is gain clarity. I want to share a quick story. Some of you may or may not know, but Mo Anderson, obviously legend in our company, after stepping out of CEO role, right? She was a part of the board at KWRI. And not too long ago, she had a market center that she was an investor in that had an unfortunate situation and lost a significant number of agents. They had the wrong leadership. That wrong leadership made some poor decisions. And when you have the wrong leadership team as a market center, you're going to struggle. And so a significant number of agents exited that market center. And so the word I would sort of use is that market center was on fire, right? It was not in a great place. What Mo did is Mo had clarity that she could rebuild that market center because she's done it before. She focused on the right people and the right activities when others would have given up, right? And so clarity is about knowing what to do in the tough times. And in times of uncertainty, clarity is a leader's most valuable resource. Where there is no clarity, the people will perish. And so I love Mo's story because I was recently in that market center. I got to go there and spend time with the agents, with the leadership team. And she has rebuilt that market center stronger than it was before. And they are regaining the agents that they want back, that they lost, and gaining additional ones because Mo had the clarity to know what to do in a tough time. And here's the truth. Clarity should really lead leaders to commitment. And commitment is really the basis of all action, right? You got to make a commitment before you sort of move to the next step. So for KW offices, what I would ask you is what matters most, right? If you're a leader in a Keller Williams market center and you're listening to this, in terms of clarity, again, what matters most? Remember, we are a capped model. We have a capped commission structure. So in tough times for a Keller Williams office, where do you focus on? You focus on the essentials. Number one, the way we make profit is through agent count, right? Our agent count and our profit are tied together. And so you have to look at, are you doing the activities to affect agent count? Are we doing the right things to keep more people and to go get in business with the best people in our market? Number two, do we have the best leadership team that we need in order to win in this office? I have never seen a great office that did not have a great leadership team. It is absolutely the backbone of a fantastic Keller Williams market center. And then the other thing is they focused on the 4 conversations that matter most. If you've been in leadership a while, you know these 4 conversations. We have to have enough appointments to lead to adding enough people to the market center, which is gross. So appointments, gross. Then we have to keep the agents we get, which is net. And then finally, when you do that well and you run the model, that leads to profit. So are you focused on the 4 conversations that lead to having a successful office? And again, that's true whether you're in good times or bad times. But when you're in tough times, you double down on doing not everything well, but doing a few things extremely well. Now, for K2B agents who are listening, I want to ask you what matters most. And what I love for you is it's really very simple. And I have to give credit to an amazing coach, Jordan Freed, who shared this recently. There's really only 2 conversations that matter most for agents. Again, in good times or in tough times. But definitely in tough times, these conversations matter more than anything else. And that is, how many people are you talking to a week about real estate? And then number 2 is, how many listings are you taking each week? If you will just focus in on those 2 questions in a tough market, and everything you do leads to helping you do more of those 2 things, to take more listings each week and to have more conversations with more people about real estate, there's a good chance you're going to have your best year ever in tough times, right? So finally, what I would tell you is the lesson on gaining, trait number 2, gaining clarity, is that clarity cuts through the noise and it gives you the courage to make a commitment, to do what is necessary in tough times. Once you tap into courage, you then have to become resourceful, which leads us to trait number 3, becoming resourceful. I'm going to share another story with you. I remember almost a decade ago that I was in the process of launching a market center. Anna and myself were living in Texas, and we were being led to move our life up to our region up in Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. And we were launching a market center, and Anna made the decision to become the team leader of that office. And here's the reality, talking about reality. Here's the reality of her situation, is that Anna knew 0 people. And she had to be resourceful on how she was going to win as a team leader in a market where she knew no one and no one knew her. I've heard this running a region, running offices. I have heard this many a time. Well, I don't think I can win here because nobody knows me. Well, here's the truth. You can either use that as a weakness or you can use that as a superpower. And I watched Anna in her first 12 months go from 0 agents to 100 agents in that market center because she tapped into resourcefulness and she turned her biggest weakness into her superpower by using it as a tool and saying, you know what, this is great. Nobody knows me. I have an opportunity to meet everyone because nobody knows who I am. Sometimes people who are already known have a harder time because their reputation precedes them, right? So being resourceful, resources may shrink in tough markets, but resourcefulness should expand. And so here's an exercise I would share with you for resourcefulness. So here's what I would do. Write down the resources you have. Then I want you to list out, what do you think you can do with those resources to help you win? All right, so on one side of the paper, you're going to have what resources you have. How can you use those resources to help you win? The second thing I would tell you to do on the other side of paper is write down the resources you don't have or have less of in the current market or in your current business, right? Whatever that may be. And then I want you to list out, how can you use those to your advantage? And so here's an example. With tighter margins, a lot of offices and agents aren't spending as much on lead generation to get more agents or clients, right? Okay, that's a reality of where we're at. How can you use that to your advantage? Well, why don't you just focus on going deeper into relationships? If you know you need to have more conversations and your budget isn't as big, well, what can you do? Can you write handwritten notes? Can you make more phone calls? Could you partner with other, your affiliates to host some low-cost events and get in front of more people? You can use your lack of resources either to your advantage or to your disadvantage, depending on how you use it. And so the lesson here for being resourceful, trait number 3, I'll share a Tony Robbins quote. He says, resourcefulness is not about having more resources. It's about being more resourceful with what you already have. Okay, with that being said, let's move to trait number 4, which is illuminating the path. I'm going to share another Gary Keller story with you. As the legend is told, and many people don't know this, Jim and Linda at one point were actually kicked out of Keller Williams. I know, pretty scandalous, right? Well, the truth of that story is the person who owned the Keller Williams Denton Market Center at the time, she was going to move her franchise to Century 21. She was going to get rid of her Keller Williams franchise and take all the agents over to Century 21 because she was convinced that profit share was stupid, that she shouldn't have to pay it, and she looked at it as an expense, not as a fuel for growth. And Linda and Jim had come from a company that was a dependent model, and they had paid a fortune to be there, and they didn't get the value that they knew that they needed. And so they decided that they weren't going to go to Century 21. So she asked them to quietly exit the office, which they did. And they went out and bought a neon sign, spent $18,000, and they set up McKissack Real Estate Services as an independent brokerage in Denton, Texas. And they then get a phone call from a guy by the name of Gary Keller. And at this time, Linda and Jim knew Gary because they walked across the stage and got handed the #1 award at Keller Williams when there was about 2,000 people in the company. So they didn't really know Gary Keller like they know Gary Keller today. And Gary said, will you meet me in Dallas? And I just want to talk with you guys for maybe an hour or two. And sure enough, that hour conversation turned into about, I think it was 6 hours or something crazy, a super long time. And Gary talked nothing but about them and how they were the natural people to take over the Keller Williams franchise in Denton. And Gary shared with them a brighter future than just selling houses for the rest of their lives. And thank God Gary did that, because it would create opportunities in our family, for me and for other people up in our region in Ohio and in Denton, Texas, and in Flower Mound, Texas, and all the places in our company that Jim and Linda would impact, because Gary shared a brighter future for them than just selling houses for the rest of their life. Here's the way I would look at this. Leaders aren't just problem solvers, they're light bearers. And what I mean by that is they go around the corner to see what's to come, and they bring it back to help lead other people to live a better life, to make better decisions, right? Illuminating the path is about giving people around you hope. Sometimes it's about giving yourself hope, direction, and belief when others are discouraged. Few examples of this that I would think about is, you need to connect with others who are light bearers. Being around people taking action and making moves is so valuable in tough times, because, I think it's Tony Robbins who says proximity is power, right? You need to be connected to people who are also light bearers and leaders of themselves in tough times. The other thing is, you need to be tapping into inspiring stories of agents who are thriving in down markets. This is why I love the Millionaire Real Estate Agent podcast. This is why I love some of the interviews we've done on our Profit Share podcast. You need to hear stories of people who are winning in markets like this, because that is fuel for your courage inside of your heart to continue to do what you need to do to win in tough times. And then finally, there's a great interview by Jack Welch. If you go to YouTube and you type in Jack Welch interview on vision or something like that, it'll pop right up. And he talks about, and if you don't know who Jack Welch was the CEO of, I think it was GE, if I remember correctly, something like that. And essentially he took that from a few $billion company to a massive company, to the likes of which no one had ever seen before. That man grew the profits of the revenue of that business by multiple billions of dollars. And the thing he says in that interview is what he did best when he was in the role of CEO is he shared the vision. And then he said, the thing I wish I'd have done more is I wish I would have shared the vision. If you lead people or if you lead yourself, you need to share the vision daily about where you're going. You need to illuminate the path ahead, because here's what I know to be true. if you'll study history, what you'll know is the real estate market goes up, and then what does it do? It goes down, and then what does it do? It goes back up again. So here's the truth. The vision is it's going to go up eventually, right? Are you doing the right things now to set yourself up? Because when it goes from being down to up, and God willing, we're starting to see the trajectory that we are in, if not now, in the next few months and or year, to see that trend continue to go up. Are you ready to ride that wave, right? If you've been doing things that tough people do in tough times, you will reap the reward when times turn good, right? And you'll be ahead of the curve. So my lesson for you in trait number 4, illuminating the path, is that people always follow the light. When you light the way, people will follow even through uncertainty. So whether that's your in your own life, or whether that is the people who you surround yourself with, I challenge you to share the vision daily. What are you having your people tap into to give them hope and give them direction and illuminate the path? Okay, so that's today's episode. I'm going to recap quickly. We talked about how strong leaders tap into getting real, gaining clarity, becoming resourceful, and ultimately illuminating the path. And so here's what I'd ask you. Pick one of those 4 traits that you're going to lean into this week. And I would love nothing more. Feel free to email me, pressmckissick@kw.com. I would love nothing more than to hear from you. What did you pick that you're going to tap into this week from the list of 4 traits from Tough Times Create Tough Leaders? And in closing, I'll leave you with this. Remember, tough times don't break leaders, they make leaders. And the way you lead today will define your success and the success of those around you tomorrow. I love you guys. I cannot wait to hear how you are making yourself a tough leader in tough times. And remember, it's always darkest before the dawn. I think that's a Batman quote, by the way, which is awesome that I just worked that in here. And the future is bright. It always is. And so I hope and I pray that you will tap into being a tough leader, because tough leaders create great times, and great times are ahead. All right, with that being said, that's today's episode on the Profit Share podcast. I cannot wait to hear your ahas. And remember, if you want to know more about what we are doing to help agents and help market centers to be able to grow their offices in tough times, you can go to profitsharesites.com and learn about, if you're a market center, you need to tap into what we're doing with our market center sites. It is incredible the results we're seeing in our region right now with our market centers who are tapping into a better system to recruit new agents. And then again, for agents who want to build their downline, I don't know of a better way than for you to get calls regularly scheduled on your calendar that happens, as I like to say, automatically, than the system we have with our profit share sites for agents. So again, either way, we'd love to help you. We're here for you. And this is the best company and best real estate company in the world. It has been for a long time, and it will continue to be, because this company knows how to weather tough times. And when tough times happen, KW has been a beacon for creating tough leaders. So with that being said, I cannot wait to see what you do in the future, and we will see you next month on our next episode. All right, talk to you soon.